How's everyone doing this morning? Excellent. Folks picked a perfect day to come for a cruise. The last few days, in fact, have been outstanding here in the park. Not a cloud in the sky. Little to no wind. Hopefully that picks up a little bit later, because that wind does act as our air conditioning on these extremely hot days we've been having. But what an outstanding morning we have ahead of us. Looking here off our right, folks will get a good look of where we're headed due south. 7 miles, 11 kilometers to the heart of Glacier National Park. We'll cross the border about halfway down the lake today and pull into the Goat Haunt Ranger Station, dropping off a number of hikers. And for the rest of us, we'll just have a short 30-minute stop down there, and then we'll make our way back to town for about 12:15, right in time for lunch. So hopefully that sounds all right with everyone. If it doesn't, well, a little too late now. Exactly. We have left the dock, but like I said, I cannot stress the fact that this is just a perfect day here in the park. Normally, Waterton is a very windy place, and the weather quite variable. But first off, I'd like to welcome you all on board the historic MV International. It's the vessel we'll be cruising with here this morning. Now, they might not have mentioned this when you purchased your tickets, the fact that you'd be cruising on a 90-year-old wooden ship. The oldest wooden passenger vessel in Canada, as well as west of the Mississippi. Now, although she's 90 years old, the International is in fantastic shape. We have U.S. shipwrights coming out every spring and fall to do a lot of work on the hull. Planks are constantly being replaced. A lot of maintenance goes into this vessel. She is a U.S. registered ship, licensed by the U.S. Coast Guard, and licensed to carry 165 adult passengers. So therefore we are equipped with 168 adult life jackets. For you folks on the upper deck, those life jackets are located in the very big white lockers we have situated at the back. Children or infant life jackets located right up at the helm. Folks sitting downstairs, your life jackets are stowed above your head in these ceiling compartments. And we have life rings located strategically around the vessel. We're equipped with first aid supplies, firefighting equipment. And at the very back, you'll notice a big white barrel. It's called a self-inflating Zodiac life platform. So should the unthinkable happen this morning, and we had to abandon ship, we would simply deploy that big white barrel, and it would self-inflate automatically. We would calmly and safely climb on board. I would then enlist your captain, Phil, and your first mate, Kevin, to start paddling, and then the tour would continue. Want to make sure you get your money's worth today, right? All joking aside, I think we have your safety concerns well in hand. We have a crew of 3 on board, very experienced crew. Captain up at the helm, we have Captain Phil, piloting the vessel. And he's actually the longest serving captain in the International's history. I'll let you take a guess at how many years that is. And your first mate, his name is Kevin, and he'll be circulating around the vessel from time to time. Feel free to pull Kevin aside at any time if you do have any questions or any concerns. He's a homegrown local from this Waterton town site, an avid outdoorsman. He's climbed all the mountains, done all the trails, so feel free to pull him aside if any of your inquiries. Well, my name is Mike, and like Kevin, I was born and raised right here in town, and I'll be acting as your tour guide for our trip this morning, providing you with a little bit of information as we cruise around the lake. We'll note a few different things to hopefully enhance your boat ride with us. Now, I do not have a set formal commentary. I certainly like to mix things up each and every cruise. I think if I were to repeat the same script trip after trip, year after year, well, I wouldn't be here for my 12th season now. So I like to mix things up, and I encourage questions. Raise a hand if you like, or shout it out, and we can certainly elaborate on what you folks are interested in and personalize the cruise that much more. But I also will say I will not talk for the entire tour, because if I were to talk for the next 2 hours and 15 minutes straight, I think I might ruin your morning. And I don't want to do that, so I'll set the mic down from time to time, give some time to yourselves, with your friends, your family, and enjoy this outstanding day we have here in Waterton. Now to get things rolling, take a look here off our right-hand side. Notice the black cottonwood trees growing along the water's edge. We're all leaning towards the north. That's called wind training or wind flagging. On a day like this, it might surprise you to learn, Waterton is one of the most consistently windy places in Canada. Now, the average wind speed right around 35 kilometers per day, about 20 miles an hour. Well, last January, for example, we had wind gusts clock out at 166 kilometers per hour. That's over 100 miles. Hurricane force gusts blowing through this valley, quite common in the winter months. If the lake isn't already frozen at that point, we'll have 7 to 8 foot swells out on the water. But that's why those trees off our right have all grown up permanently on that angle leaning towards the north, wind training or wind flagging. Now it's also how you can pick out the true locals in the Waterton town sites. So keep an eye out for them later today as you're walking around. The 50-year-round residents, they walk around like those trees. They're always leaning into the wind. And then you get a day like this and they're just going to fall right over. Now the big hotel back behind us, the Prince of Wales Hotel. During her construction in 1926 and 27, that hotel was blown off its foundation twice. First time they pulled it back manually with hand winches, horses, but the second time they were so far along in the building process, they felt they'd do more structural harm than good. And to this day, that hotel does sit off its foundation a few inches here and there, not quite square and plumb. It's rumored on our very windy days the chandelier will sway in that main lobby. And some of the guests have even reported whitecaps in their toilet bowls. I'm not sure if you can believe that one. You'll have to stay there and confirm that for me. Leave the town site behind now. Leave behind civilization. Everything in front of us, nothing but untouched, pristine, backcountry wilderness, the way nature intended to be if there was no presence of man. Apart from the buildings at the ranger station at the south end, you'll see no other forms of development. Side you'll see a number of kayaks. That's the only other boat traffic you'll really see on the lake this year. Kayaks, canoes, stand-up paddleboards. No more speedboats are allowed on the lake. There's a new regulation in effect. The Parks Canada and Glacier National Park banned all motorized vessels on these waters within the national parks. Apart from the commercial tour boats that have never left these waters and any government-regulated craft. And the reason they're doing this is because they discovered a very invasive species called the quagga mussel. A few hours drive from here in Montana in a reservoir. So in hopes of that not spreading here, they have decided to ban all motorized vessels. Certainly the quagga mussel, which is similar to the zebra mussel, would be detrimental to this ecosystem and everything downstream. All this water is traveling east across Canada, the South Saskatchewan River, the Hudson Bay, Arctic Ocean, the final resting place of all this water. And this water is the lifeline for much of southern Alberta, all the farming and ranching communities. You can still put your kayak or canoe out on the water. You just got to fill out a self-registration form confirming you don't have any of those nasty mussels on board your vessel. And a few short moments off our right, folks will get a good idea of how close we can get to the shoreline. And throughout the cruise this morning, we'll be staying nice and close to shore. This is an incredibly deep lake. Average depth 220 feet, while the deep spot is sounded at 487 feet, or 148 meters right down to the bottom. That makes this the deepest natural lake in the Canadian Rockies at that depth. It's icy cold as well. Has anyone gone swimming yet? Nobody. Maybe by the end of the day you might change your mind. With the warm weather we've been having, it's very refreshing. Surface reading I took a few days ago was around 8 degrees Celsius, just about 60 Fahrenheit. So it's still quite cold. It's a glacier fed lake. 3 active glaciers currently feed these waters because it's so deep, and the constant churning action from the wind doesn't allow it to warm up all that much. But on a hot summer day, like I said, it's mighty refreshing. A lot of the local kids will jump in off our floating docks back in town down. And we call it the trampoline effect. They run in, jump and scream, and pretty much jump right back out. Not a whole lot of swimming occurs here. In fact, we call it an anti-drowning lake. You will not drown here, you'll freeze to death first. I'm only partly joking, but hypothermia certainly does set in quite quick here. But you'll see the drop-off off our right as well. A hop, a skip, a jump. You'll be well over your head. The shape of this lake, if you were to drain all the water, would resemble your bathtub. Very distinctive U-shape to it. Steep along the edges, rounds out around the middle. It's all very representative of glacial action. And as the scientists tell us, this area experienced 4 separate periods of glaciation. The last glacial advance occurred roughly 10,000 years ago. And at that time, only the tallest mountains would be exposed. Those great glaciers covered up this entire landscape, carved out and sculpted out this entire region like an artist with a paintbrush. They left behind deep U-shaped valleys, high alpine cirques, beautiful alpine lakes. For example, here off our right, this U-shaped valley between the mountains, that was all a minor glacier at one time. And that minor glacier was working its way down into the central glacier that carved out this entire upper Waterton lake, heading towards the plains or the prairies. So that's why it's incredibly deep. We'll cruise by a few areas a little later on where we can be 2 to 3 feet off from a cliff wall and have 80 feet of water right beneath us. That definitely does increase our chances of seeing some wildlife. So I would encourage your help on that matter. Scan the shorelines. If you see any movements, any critters, let us know. Black bears, we've been seeing them quite frequently over the past few days now. Not to say we don't see grizzlies here. We certainly have a healthy grizzly bear population, but the grizzlies are higher up in elevation, or the subalpine, the alpine regions, where it's a bit better digging habitat to find a lot of their food sources. Here in the lower montans, this is black bear habitat. And to give you an idea, right now we're at 4,200 feet above sea level, or 1,200 meters. We have a nesting pair of bald eagle. We're seeing them almost every trip yesterday, so likely we'll see them once again. Sometimes the osprey. If you're up binoculars long, you can scan the tops of these mountain peaks, looking for the mountain goat. Further down, we have the Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep, and even further down, elk, moose, and of course the mule deer. But we typically won't stop for the mule deer. You just gotta walk around the Waterton town sites. You'll see them all over the place. They'll live there year-round, those mule deer. Never know quite what you'll see out here. I think last summer was my best wildlife sighting yet. Cruising down the lake about 8 o'clock at night on our sunset cruise, and we spotted a lynx swimming the width of the lake. Now, living here my entire life, I've never seen a lynx until that night. And then to finally see one and seeing it doing something so unusual, that was pretty interesting. I've also seen the big old kitty cat, the mountain lion, or the cougar. I know I'm still waiting to see that elusive Bigfoot or Sasquatch. So keep your eyes peeled and let us know if you see anything at all. We'll go in for a closer look and hopefully get you folks some excellent photo opportunities here this morning. Now here on our right-hand side, interesting mountain. It's called Mount Richards. Prior to being called Mount Richards, though, this was called Sleeping Chief by the First Nations to this area. So use your imagination. Look to the top right portion on Mount Richards and see if you can make out an upturned face staring into the sky. Top right portion, first you'll see the chin. You follow that further right, a set of lips. The nose slopes down to where an eye socket should be, right when that tree stand starts. And the idea is the cliff band is the old native headdress as it extends down to the lake. Sleeping Chief, as called by our First Nations. To our left and back behind us, this is Mount Vimy, or Vimy Ridge, and that's named after the historic World War I battle in Vimy, France. That's where Canadian troops were the only armed forces able to take that ridge when many other countries had failed to do so. Known as the birthplace of Canadian identity, it was the first time that Canadians were commanding other Canadians. Very much before that, we were considered a colony of Great Britain. Now, this is also the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge this year, and in honor of that historic battle in April, Parks Canada hiked up to the top of the mountain with a number of members of the Canadian Armed Forces and the UK military. Now, in April, that mountain was covered in snow and ice still. So they went up with snowshoes, crampons, ice axes. They got right to the peak. They unfurled a Canadian flag in honor of that historic World War I battle in Vimy, France. Waterton is a relatively small national park in size. If you've seen it on a map, you'll notice that. All told, it's 525 kilometers squared in size, 202 miles squared. That's only 1/10 the size of Glacier National Park to the south of us. Although incredibly small, Waterton certainly is a very biodiverse and incredibly unique area. In fact, it's the only place in the world with 5 very prestigious designations. We achieved our first in 1911. That's when Waterton officially became a national park. Glacier was the year prior, in 1910. Now, 1932 is when the two parks came together and formed the world's very first international peace park. 1979 became a World Biosphere Reserve. In 1995, it obtained the most prestigious designation a place can really come across, that being a natural UNESCO World Heritage Site. So an area that displays unique characteristics and significant global value. And we met that on many different fronts, from our geology to our biodiversity and ecology. And just this April, we received our 5th and final designation, that being the first international dark sky preserve in the world. Both Glacier Park and Waterton cooperating on that endeavor. So with all the infrastructure improvements here in Waterton, Parks Canada is very busy replacing all of the lighting in town. So there's no more light pollution. You can come here on a clear night, probably like this evening, gaze up into the stars, see that Milky Way in its entirety. Well, it might be hard-pressed tonight because I heard it's the full moon tonight. So we're going to see that full moon. Be a perfect night for it here in the park. But that new dark sky status is certainly a new and exciting development for us here. Now, all told, we have 60 different types of mammals living here in the park. This is the narrowest section of the Rocky Mountain Range, so it's a major migration route for many different animals. Our largest land mammal is the bison, and the smallest would be the pygmy shrew, and everything else in between. We have lynx, wolverine, 2 different wolf packs. We have 10 reptiles and amphibians, 24 different types of fish species, over 250 different types of bird species passing over this region. 1,200 vascular plants will grow in the area, and it's been dubbed the unofficial wildflower capital of Canada. we have more than 600 different wildflowers blooming here in Waterton. Some of those are unique to this area alone. And that's because we have mountains meeting prairies. Normally when you visit a mountainous region, you first travel through the prairies, the foothills, and then the mountains. But Waterton is known as where the mountains meet the prairies so suddenly, so abruptly. So with alpine tundra meeting fescue grasslands, it certainly allows for some unique opportunities to thrive here. Section up ahead drops off quite quickly here. It's a good time to admire Mother Nature's rock garden. See a number of flowers, shrubs blooming here along the cliff wall, and even trees that appear to be growing right out of bare rock. Not a whole lot of soil there. This tree right at lake level, that's a pretty impressive tree, I think. If you don't think that's not incredible, I don't know. Go home, plant a tree in a rock, and let me know how that goes. The reason why the trees are thriving and surviving here, growing right out of that cliff wall, is because of the orange substance you see along this cliff. The orange is a living organism. It's called lichen. Lichen formed through an algae and a fungi, having a symbiotic relationship with one another. During the life cycle of the lichen, it will live and die on the rock. And each time it dies, it leaves behind a fine layer of nutrient-rich soil. Over millennia of this occurring, living and dying, enough soil is accumulated that first the flowers, the shrubs can take hold, and eventually trees that appear to be growing right out of bare rock. You have to remember roughly 10,000 years ago when the last glaciers receded away, this entire landscape was completely barren. There was no soil, there was no vegetation. Lichen was one of the first organisms to the region, and with the assistance of nitrogen-rich bird droppings, the first colonies of lichens were formed, and from there everything else took root. You'll find lichen growing here at lake level, and you'll find it growing at the tallest mountain peak in the park. There's over a dozen different varieties. Lichen will only grow in areas with extremely clean air quality. I might have noticed the tone of the engines have changed. Just had a word with Captain Phil, and he's informing me that we've run out of fuel.
What?
See, folks aren't buying that one. We're actually slowing down because we've arrived at the international border. Take a look off your left, and you're going to see a cut line or a swath in the trees as it extends up Mount Boswell. So that, my friends, is the international border between Canada and the United States.
Okay.
And on our right-hand side now, you folks will get a close-up look at that border. Two markers coming into view called obelisks. And when you line those two obelisks up exactly one in front of the other, that's when you have the surveyor's view, or the surveyor's perspective, of the 49th parallel. 49 degrees north latitude.
So is it illegal to cross here?
So now we're going to come around and check all your passports. I'm only joking. You don't need your passports. In fact, I think this will be the easiest border crossing we do anytime soon. No passports needed, no questions asked. Just like that, we've crossed over into the great state of Montana, Big Sky Country, and also Glacier National Park. So welcome. Now, the reason why we can cross this border so easily, like I said, no questions asked, is because this is an international peace park, the world's very first, formed in 1932. Prior to 1932, you have to understand the two national parks were being run separate of one another. They had very different goals, different management strategies. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This is all one ecosystem. Everything here is connected. Thankfully, Rotarians of Rotary International recognize this, they lobbied their respective federal governments with the slogan, "Nature sees no boundaries, so why should we?" Imagine a bear coming upon that border. He doesn't say, "Oh, I'm a Canadian bear," and turn around. Of course not. The wildlife, they don't recognize that cut line through the trees. They simply cross. So in 1932, those Rotarians were successful. This became the world's very first international peace park, and since then, Glacier National Park and Waterton Lakes National Park work hand in hand with the main goals of preservation and conservation. Looking here off our right, beautiful look at the Boundary Creek flowing into the lake, and in the distance, scenic looking mountain called the Citadel Peaks of Porcupine Ridge. It'll come back into view here momentarily as we pass by these trees. But that mountain there is certainly quite scenic with those pinnacles or spires, you see. Old timers call that mountain Old Sawtooth. Well, the original native name, known as Autloxis, roughly translates to the needles touching the heavens. And there's coming back into view now. Left-hand side, mountain in that usually valley, bit of snow left over in that alpine cirque, and there's a vivid band of reddish rock running along its ridge. It is called Mount Mishiwabin. It's one of the few mountains left that has retained that original native name after all these years. Mishiwabin roughly translates to beautiful dawn. And perhaps the First Nations saw that mountain and it might have reminded them of sunrise, that reddish rock. You can see that in abundance up at the Red Rock Canyon, one of our scenic drives back in town, called Argillite, part of the Grinnell Formation. the vessel today. So we drop you off down at Goat Haunt. You once you clear customs, you can head off on some of those backcountry trails or different popular hikes. There's also been a number of moose sightings over the past few weeks now. A few years back, the Kootenay Lakes offered some of the best moose habitat in Glacier National Park. Folks used to go back there and see anywhere from 1 to, I believe the record was 16 moose at one time. Now, we haven't been seeing them in the same frequency for the past 2 years now. And that's because there's a wolf presence here in the Goat Haunt Ranger Station that scared away a lot of the moose. Just the other day, the rangers saw them down near the Rainbow Falls hike. So they're certainly out and about still. The Kootenay Lakes itself offers some great habitat for the moose. Very marshy, swampy area. And they were documented diving down in these Kootenay Lakes. They dive down, grab a mouthful of vegetation, about 10 feet deep. Come back to the surface, munch down that vegetation. That seaweed growing in the alpine lakes. So lots of good food sources for them there. How many folks have seen a moose before? Quite a few. Excellent. So I think you might agree with me then when I say they're quite a strange creature. Long gangly legs, that elongated jaw, the ears. Even another thing that hangs off the chin of the moose. It's known as his moustache. Oh, bad joke. Known as his bell or dewlap. I think the Native Americans explained the moose best. They believe their God, the Creator, created all the lands and all the animals. And when he was done doing this, he was left with a bag of spare parts. Took those spare parts and crafted and formed the moose. So like I said, quite a strange creature. Now sometimes we will see them around the lake as well, typically where the willows grow right along the water's edge. In the springtime we had an excellent moose sighting. There's a mother giving birth right along the shoreline. She hung out there for about 2 days straight. Every cruise we saw on that same beach. So she was preparing to nest. And they'll wander down to the water's edge to give birth because it eliminates 180 degrees chance of a predator. If that predator were to come, the mother would actually chase the newborn calf into the lake. Almost before they can walk, those moose can swim. Exceptional swimmers. We've seen the adults swimming the width of the lake quite frequently through the course of the summer. To our right, a large portion of snow is coming into view. It's called the Janet Snowfields. One of our permanent snowpacks that will remain year-round. I'll point 2 other snowfields out a little later on in the trip. Unfortunately, I'm not able to point out the glaciers, the 3 active glaciers that feed this lake. They're not visible from any vantage point on the water. We have the Dixon Glacier, the Carter Glacier, and the Thunderbird Glacier. All flowing in from the tributary right at the Goat Haunt Ranger Station. And just to the right of the Janet Snowfield, you're seeing a dome-shaped mountain coming into view, just above that treed ridge. A little bit of snow left on the very top. So that's called the guardhouse. And essentially that is the Continental Divide, the division of watersheds. Further south of us, near St. Mary's, Montana, is a very unique mountain peak called Triple Divide Peak. It's known as the hydrological apex of the North American continent. So how this works, in theory, if you hike to the top of this mountain, dump a bucket of water on the very summit, in theory, 1/3 of it would travel here into this upper water lake. All this water I mentioned earlier is traveling east across Canada, South Saskatchewan, Hudson Bay, Arctic Ocean. So there's your first ocean. Another third would travel west, entering the Columbia River system, the Pacific Ocean. And the last third would travel south, working its way into the mighty Mississippi, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Atlantic Ocean. 3 different oceans, Triple Divide Peak. Pretty unique feature to the area. Well, if you follow that snowfield down to lake level, you might notice a green A-frame structure on the far shoreline. That is the new Starbucks that they're building down here. And of course not. That's actually the boathouse for this very vessel, the International. That's where she was built, 1926 and 27, 90 years ago. Now, why was it built down here in the middle of nowhere? The company who built her was the Great Northern Railroad. They were an American company. They wanted her to be a U.S. registered ship. Therefore, the keel had to be laid on U.S. soil. That's why they went through all the trouble to build it down here. To this day, she is U.S. registered. So your Captain Phil, an American citizen. Now your first mate Kevin and myself, we're both captains licensed through Transport Canada. So we can drive the other 3 tour boats back at town, but we can only work as deckhands or crew members here on the International, since she is U.S. registered. As you can see, we're starting to run out of lake. We've almost reached our destination, Goat Haunt, Montana. In preparation for our landing, I ask that you folks now please return to your seats. And I'll need the folks on the front of the ship, the bow section, to now clear that area, as Kevin will have to open up the gates and prepare our lines for our landing procedure. We'll be pulling into the landing up ahead to our left. Building that will come into view shortly is called the Peace Park Pavilion. A little bit of information about the Peace Park located inside. And to the left, up the stairs to your left, are where the full washroom facilities are located, and at that location only. We'll have a 30-minute stop down here this morning, so feel free to walk all the way over to the lone American flag. We don't have much wind here, so it's hard to make out, but it's that open pavilion off our right. That's called the Snowflake Pavilion, and just behind that is the official port of entry into the United States. A small kiosk acting as the ranger station. So if you're doing some hiking today, that is where you'll go. You'll then have to clear customs, so you'll need to show your passport if you want to head on to the hiking trails. Now, for the purposes of our trip here, if you're just staying for the 30-minute stop, you are not required to clear customs. You can walk all the way over to the checkpoint. You just cannot go past unless you're prepared to clear customs. 30 minutes we'll have down here this morning. We'll sound the ship's horn 10 minutes prior to departure. So when you hear our loud air horn, that is your signal to come on back and reboard for our prompt 11:25 departure. We also have Ranger Jane greeting us here at the dock, giving a wave right now. She's one of the park rangers, park interpreters, stationed down here at Goat Haunt for roughly 4 months of the year. And she'll be there to greet you as you disembark. She'll be offering a small little talk about the area here, and also some guided hikes. She'll certainly give you more information about that as you disembark. And just one last quick reminder, this is a national park, a protected area. So please go with the motto, take only pictures, leave only footprints. That'll serve your time very well here. As you can imagine, we've been down a number of people here through the course of the summer. Take something with them, a rock, a stick, a flower, to quickly deplete the area. A few years back, we had a lady picking the wildflowers, and brought him up to the head ranger, asked him what kind of wildflower she had. He informed her she had the $100 kind, as he wrote up a number of tickets. So everything is protected for a good reason. The main goal here, preservation, conservation, for future generations. So all the kids on board today, they can come back with their kids and enjoy in the same untouched manner. I think you folks will this morning. Just a perfect day here down at Goat Haunt, so certainly enjoy yourselves, have a nice stop. I'll be dockside if you have any further questions, but other than that, enjoy your 30-minute stop down here at beautiful Goat Haunt, Montana.